There are two questions most people spend their whole lives quietly avoiding. What am I? And why do I exist at all? Courage the Cowardly Dog, in between curses and screaming, keeps circling back to both of them. 1,000 years pass in an instant, and the entire world Courage knew is simply gone. The first question, asked at the scale of a species, a blow to the head erases Muriel completely, right down to her own name. The same question, asked at the scale of a single mind, and a phantom, dead for generations, still can't stop deciding who Muriel is supposed to be. The question answered by someone who was never asked. This is a deep dive into fear of existence and identity. 3 episodes, each one trying to answer what am I, or why do I exist, in its own strange way, and none of them landing on an answer anyone would actually find comforting. Before getting into the episodes, it's worth being precise about what this category is actually asking, because what am I and why do I exist sound like the same question, but they aren't. Why do I exist is a question about permanence at the largest scale. Whether the world, the species, the whole context you belong to was ever guaranteed to keep existing at all. What am I is a question about the self specifically. Whether the thing making you recognizable to yourself, your memories, your history, your name, is something you actually own, or something that can be lost, rewritten, or claimed by someone else. This video never lands on a clean answer to either question. That's on purpose. What am I, and why do I exist, are the 2 questions this show keeps asking, without ever actually answering, because the honest answer, each time, is less than you'd like to think. Start here, because this is the broadest possible scale this fear can operate on. Not one person's death, but the apparent extinction of an entire species, discovered almost by accident during a family game night. 1,000 years of courage, existence of civilization. A meteor sends the Baggies house 1,000 years into the future, and the show doesn't soften the implication. Humans, dogs, everything Courage understood as the world, are simply gone, replaced by a civilization of bananas who have no memory of any of it. This isn't a monster threatening a family. It's a family discovering their entire species may no longer exist. And notice what the episode chooses to focus on, instead of despair. Survival through disguise. The Baggies put on banana costumes and blend in, which is a strange, almost darkly funny response to finding out your entire civilization might be gone. But it's also exactly the response this fear demands. When existence itself feels uncertain, the instinct isn't to mourn, it's to adapt quickly enough to keep existing at all. The episode ultimately reverses the disaster. A well-timed meteor strike sends them back to their own game night, as if nothing happened. But that reversal doesn't erase what the episode already established. An entire civilization's continued existence was never something the Baggies, or anyone, actually controlled. It was one accident away from being over, and it very nearly was. Now the fear narrows dramatically. The last episode threatened an entire species. This one threatens a single mind, and does it with something as mundane as a falling board. Doctorly Quack, Amnesia Specialist, identity of the individual. One accidental blow to the head, and Muriel loses everything that makes her recognizably herself. Courage, Eustace, her own name. The episode doesn't dress this up with magic or curses. It's presented as something that could genuinely happen to anyone, which makes it land differently than the show's more fantastical threats. And notice how quickly her identity becomes something other people can redefine once it's gone. Eustace immediately starts treating amnesiac Muriel as unpaid labor, and Quack, arriving under false pretenses, tries to extract information from her, as though her blank memory makes her property rather than a person. The fear here isn't just forgetting, It's how fast others are willing to fill that vacancy with their own version of who you should be. Muriel's memory only returns after a second blow to the head, which is a strange, almost too neat resolution, and the episode seems to know it. Identity, in this episode, isn't presented as something deeply, permanently rooted. It's presented as fragile enough to be knocked loose by accident, and restorable, if you're lucky, by another accident just like it. Finally, the fear narrows one more time, from losing your own identity to never having had full ownership of it in the first place, because someone else's unfinished history has already decided part of who you're going to be. McPhearson Phantom. Identity shaped by the past. Muriel never met the McPhearson Phantom. She has no direct connection to what happened generations ago, when her great-great-aunt Griselda threw the Phantom's husband into Loch Ness. And yet the Phantom's entire plan targets Muriel specifically, sabotaging her marriage, turning Eustace against her, purely because of a bloodline connection Muriel had no say in. That's a distinctly different fear than the first two episodes. This isn't about existence ending, or memory being lost. It's about inheriting consequences for something you never did, simply because of who you're related to. Muriel's identity, in this episode, isn't just what she remembers or believes about herself. It's also whatever unresolved history other people decide to attach to her family name. And notice how the episode resolves it. Not by Muriel defending herself, but by Courage getting Ma to accidentally reveal the actual person responsible, Griselda, not Muriel. The Phantom's fury was misdirected the entire time, aimed at the wrong generation, simply because she was still there to aim it at. Identity shaped by the past doesn't require the current person to be guilty, it just requires someone else to still be angry. Step back and look at what these three episodes actually build, in order, rather than as three disconnected examples. First, existence itself is shown to be contingent, an entire civilization, gone or replaced, with no warning and no say from anyone in it. Then, personal identity is shown to be fragile, knocked loose by a single accident, and immediately up for grabs by whoever's nearby when it happens. And finally, identity is shown to be inherited, at least in part, shaped by history you never lived through, attached to you by people who were never going to ask your permission first. Across these three episodes, the vanished civilization of 1,000 years of courage, the erased mind of Dr. Quack, Amnesia Specialist, and the inherited grudge of McPhearson Phantom, Courage the Cowardly Dog keeps circling back to the same two questions it never fully answers. Why do I exist? Because a meteor didn't hit at quite the wrong angle, or a monkey scheme got exposed in time. What am I? Whatever's left standing after an accident, after someone else's decision, after history hands you a role you never auditioned for. Courage the Cowardly Dog doesn't resolve either question, so much as it keeps everyone standing just long enough to ask them again next episode. A lucky meteor, a lucky second blow to the head, a lucky confession at exactly the right moment. Existence and identity both hold in this show, but only barely. And only because someone happened to be paying close enough attention to catch them before they slipped. Would people around you treat you differently if you forgot who you were?